is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post, brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 2nd of October 2019, and I am DM.
I am JM.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are.
Yes.
In the Daily Nation, intrigues of Raila Jumwa meeting.
Wow.
In the Star, DP Ruto is launching ghost projects, MPs. The Standard, NEC stops 300 schools from stealing examination. I think we begin with...
DP Ruto is launching ghost projects.
Yeah, why are they so
So this accusatory headline comes from a parliamentary accounts committee session where they were meeting the National Lands Commission and the National Irrigation Board.
Yes.
And they're talking about the Nzoia irrigation scheme because there have been issues around it, particularly issues around compensation. But as they were doing that, the agencies pointed out that DP Ruto is wrongfully commissioning projects, including this irrigation scheme.
Of which he launched or commissioned on June 7th.
Yeah, so they say he wrongfully commissioned it because it's a shell, it's a skeleton, hence they're calling it a ghost project.
Eager beaver.
Jumping the gun.
Not really. Let me come to his defense. You know, as the deputy president, as the leader of government business, so to speak, in the executive, he has every right, he has a prerogative to push the government to implement projects. And what he's basically telling the relevant agencies here is that you ought to hasten your steps.
You need to start.
The people, and he's a politician, right? So he's down there, the people are making demands. He has to, and you know, from how he's seeing things, this thing should be done. The people are saying it should be done.
Seeing things, or he's just acquiring political mileage for himself?
Exactly.
By saying, IDP will bring you the following irrigation scheme. But you see how that can work against him is, if the agencies really are not ready to begin the work, then he looks like he's making empty promises where he goes.
And you see he's been practicing the politics of, display and attention. He's really trying to, look like he's the one doing stuff.
But kudos to him, it might work.
And to his credit, listen, if the president makes a decision and nobody hears about it, did he really make it? And so if DP's out there saying, you know what, there's this stuff happening and here it is, then kudos to him. However, the same way he could attribute success is the same way failure can be attributed to him.
Although one more thing on this one, he could turn around and say, look, it didn't take off, I really wanted it to take off.
It's their fault.
But it's the agencies and it's the rest of the executive, they don't want it to happen.
Well, guys, we have a 3-part criteria that we do use to break down the headlines. We ask ourselves if it is topical or speculative, if it is monotonous or groundbreaking, and whether it is thoughtful or just plain lazy. The Star has been cheeky. I have wanted to read what the story was. I wanted to know what the ghost projects were because he has launched a lot of things this whole
I think we put in the parking bay as we consider these others.
Given that it sparked this much conversation.
Yes.
I know.
In the Daily Nation, intrigues of Raila Jumwa meeting.
Yes.
And here we have the minority whip, Junet Mohammed and Raila came out of a meeting at the Parliamentary Commission and they bump into Miss Aisha Jumwa, the Malindi MP, in the corridors.
Of Parliament.
And they accosted her.
And mysteriously there was a photo session that has happened that has ended up on two of the dailies. My thing is, are they really wooing her after kicking her out? Is this an act of desperation on Raila's part?
This is an act of desperation, I think, on the part of ODM. Because the story as well references that Jumwa yesterday endorsed Imran Okoth. But today she was cited in a meeting
with Mariga,
with the deputy president endorsing Mariga.
I think for all intents and purposes, when ODM shunned her and kicked her out, they didn't think she had political capital then. So they shouldn't come back now. And you know what? Kudos to her for moving on.
This also tells us that Aisha Jumwa, presumably then, is a very important politician worth wooing and courting.
Absolutely. And in this, they really set her up. If you put that picture on the screen, look at how comfortable she looks to be there. So it is no accident that it made it to the the cover of the Star and the Daily Nation.
Yes.
What do you think about the headline itself?
Headline is okay. I would toss it though, compared to the Star.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give it a chance and look at the Standard.
You guys are far too nice. You're copying everything.
And this headline says, NEC stops 300 schools from stealing examination. So this story is basically about a whole list of schools across the country that had wanted to exploit certain loopholes to basically, get access to the exam papers for KCP, KCSE before the examination days.
And listen, at the Fifth Estate, we have a trend. If it's not corruption, it's an education or a health story. So we knew this loop was coming. What worries me is that parents and teachers were part and parcel of the teaching.
As always.
That for me gives me a bit of grief. The culture of corruption is starting even younger than...
It starts at home.
It's starting young and it's right in the homestead. But as you are rightfully pointing out to GK, it's because we are putting so much emphasis and importance on examinations and testing and ranking. That is why people, including parents, are willing to commit crime just to give their children a leg up.
So instead of focusing on quality, we're focusing on passing.
This is, guys, the president really wants us to move away from this, and this is why he appointed Makoha to bulldoze the competence-based curriculum, so that we can move away from this kind of culture.
Rightly so. The education system currently reinforces the very worst bits about education, instead of the good bits.
Anyway,
so amen to what the president wants, but no amen to this headline. I think, can I toss it?
Toss it.
Yeah, it's very inspiring.
Between the two, I go with the Star.
I go with the Star too. I think
the Star gives us our cheeky winning headline. On to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a three-part criteria that we use. Help me out. So we ask ourselves whether it is humorous or dry, whether it is sarcastic or pessimistic, and whether it is effective or just plain lazy.
Why don't you describe this one for us?
So we have, in the Daily Nation, Dula has drawn for us Museveni in a bright yellow shirt. On his nose seems to be a B, so that's what zoomed in into the picture there. And you have Bobby Wine with his signature red beret and sunglasses. And this time he's a B and he's got punching gloves on. And Museveni is holding a hammer. And he looks like he's about to swat himself, and he's saying, annoying.
That's the first thing that strikes me about this cartoon, and which I actually pretty much like about it, is the idiom here of the hammer, using a sledgehammer to smash a very small
sort of
consequential
thing, right? But the context here is that he has designated the red beret as military clothing. And so that means civilians, such as Bobby Wine, can no longer wear it.
I think here Museveni is recognizing the power of symbols. And that is why he's actually using the law. He's actually legislating it.
Legislating away the things he does not like.
That he does not like. He's recognizing the power of symbols to bring people together, and he's seeing how powerful Bobby Wine is in spurring a revolution.
I just hope that Museveni does not misread the times and he leaves before things take a turn for the worse.
It's a good one. I think we put it in the parking lot.
I also see Muhammad Ali sting like a bee.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Right. So in the Star?
In the Star we have a cartoon referencing the Kenya Ferry Services disaster, which happened on Sunday. It says, help, highly effective life-saving procedure. And then you've got KFS officials there pointing fingers at each other. And then you've got civilians who are basically taking videos of this accident. And it's very sad what happened.
It's tragic.
And how KFS reacted.
Exactly.
Very sloppy.
Personally, I solidly point my finger at the Kenya Ferry Services, because this is an accident that could have been prevented.
And to date, they still haven't found the bodies, to the point that the families are now paying private money. So I think...
I like the sarcastic tone, help, and then, highly effective life-saving procedure, which actually didn't happen.
I think we just need to toss it.
Okay, toss it.
Doing too much.
All right. So, on to cartoon number 3 on the Standard.
We have Kaso, Gado's replacement, and he's drawn Alcott pulling a dead or barely living donkey. And it says Punguza Mizigo, Punda amechoka. And then the little character down there says, Punda amekufa.
Yeah.
And rightly so. I feel like Punguza Musical is on its dying legs.
Yes.
However, Alcott has options, doesn't he? He doesn't.
He's got three options.
Yes.
He can either go to the court and ask for an extension if they will grant him. He can also seek a political solution and try and lobby the key stakeholders in politics to back him up.
The key mistake was going it alone.
Absolutely.
He really didn't go for political backing, and he knows in Kenya
I don't think that second one is an option for him because he doesn't have the ability to
do it.
No.
Then I think that he'll have to go for option number 3, which is to raise another 1 million signatures.
Which is too expensive, and I suspect his sponsor has since
is experiencing the same fatigue that the donkey is experiencing.
Shall we toss it?
I think we toss that.
I think then we have our winning cartoon from the Daily Nation.
Absolutely.
And now our final thought. So this week we've been looking at entrepreneurs and innovators. On Monday we looked at The Upstarts by Brad Stone. Here we looked at the story of Airbnb and Uber, and we saw how they took a traditional business, sprinkled some technology, solved a problem in our lives, and it's so successful, right? And yesterday we looked at Shoe Dog, a memoir by Phil Knight, who is the founder of Nike. And here he taught us either you grow or you die, and the importance of failing fast, moving on, overcoming that failure, and having a growth mindset. And today we're looking at The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz.
Yeah, so Ben Horowitz, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, building a business where there are no easy answers. He's an entrepreneur himself, Horowitz, and he's now a venture capitalist. And I think he's one of the most respected figures or execs in Silicon Valley. He co-founded a software company called Opsware, which was acquired by HP, Hewlett-Packard, in 2007. And in the introduction, he says that he wrote this book because the normal or the usual self-help books about management and entrepreneurship rather, attempt to give recipes for things that don't have recipes. Things like, how do you build a high-tech company? There's no recipe for that. How do you lead a group of people, especially when there are problems? There are no recipes for that. And that's why he called the book The Hard Thing About the Hard Things. So he says he's only offering advice and experience about how to deal with those hard things. And he's actually best placed to write this sort of book because Opsware went through a lot of turbulence. At some point he fired or he let go of 400 employees. A share was worth about 30 cents. But you know what? The company recovered somehow, miraculously, and they, by the time they were selling to HP, they were worth 1.6 billion.
Fantastic.
Not shillings, dollars. 1.6 billion dollars without recapitalization, meaning that the company didn't structurally change. So it's actually no mean feat.
Absolutely.
So he can give us advice.
He can definitely give us advice, and this is a book that I loved and would recommend to everyone.
So one of the key chapters, chapter 5, the author says a startup, and any company, I think for that matter, should take care of the people, the products, and the profits in that order, right? People are the most important asset in a business, and that's what I'll focus on a little bit.
That's right. In fact, I think he says if you don't take care of the people, they won't take care of the product. And if the product is bad, profit will be bad.
Of course,
if profit is bad, why are you here?
Absolutely. And so there are 3 main reasons why people are the core of the business. The first is to guarantee productivity and quality of the product. The second is so that you can retain the employees that you have invested in. And the third, more importantly, is to ensure that the business outlives you. Right? Let me ask you guys something. How many businesses do you think have stood the test of time in Kenya? Family businesses.
500. I have no starting point.
So I mean, they're very few, right? There was a study that was done by Asoko Insight this year, and they said that only 30% of family businesses make it to the 2nd generation, and only 13% make it to the 3rd generation.
Oh, really? That's great. Wow.
So a lot of companies don't have a clear and communicated succession plan. And I think we've seen that with many family-owned businesses.
Yeah, I mean, the Karumas were in the paper just recently.
Precisely.
There's definitely a drop when
the first generation dies. Right? And so that's why it's so important to get succession right. And I think that's a management lesson that we can learn from who I consider one of the best business managers of all time.
Who's this?
Who's that?
Jesus Christ.
Hey,
right?
We knew someone is coming.
Jesus Christ began with 12. Christ began with 12 specimens.
Yes.
Right, and today Christ Incorporated has 2.4 billion followers and more.
So
and
these
it's not going to stop there.
Are the disciples.
They're the disciples, right?
Apostles.
These are the people he invested in over and over and over again, right? And so the author says what you should do is focus on two types of training. There's the functional training, which you give your employees, the people who do the stuff, and that's basically the knowledge and the skills that they require to perform competently. And then you've got the management training, right? So management is where you now focus on the managers, set expectations for them in terms of what you want them to achieve, and then go one below and now train them on how to give you what you want.
So it sounds like
achieve.
one is an operational kind of training and another one is a strategic.
Precisely, that kind of thing, right? That kind of thing. And just to give a final example of a company that I think has perfected this in Kenya, this is the Tamarind Group. A group that was started by a guy called Chris Seeks and later joined by Martin Dunford. I'm always amazed when I go to the carnival, when I go to Tamarind in Mombasa, at how good the staff are. Very good, spectacular performance. And I think that's because they, a large part of their business is based on that formula of people first, then product, and then profit, right? So just a brief account of a brief history of how Tamarind has grown over the years. They started in '72 with the Tamarind Tree restaurant in Mombasa, then moved on to Carnival, then moved on to the Tamarind restaurant here in Nairobi at Haile Selassie Avenue, which closed, Tamambo, and so on and so forth. Today they've got a hotel. Today the company is worth 1.5 billion shillings.
Wow.
And guess what? It has over 30 managers and 800 employees under those 30 managers.
Wow, that is very impressive.
Huge.
Focus on people.
Yes.
People first.
My big takeaway actually was on the CEO part. So he describes what he calls a peacetime CEO and a wartime CEO. And so being in peacetime is when a company is doing well. They're the leader in the market. They have room to grow. Everything is going great. They have time to innovate. And this is sort of like Bob Collymore at the time when Safaricom is, a leader in its market. Doesn't have much competition, so he has room to be a great embracing leader. And then in wartime is when a company is sort of fending off imminent and existential threats. It's constantly under siege. This is sort of what he would describe as Steve Jobs' managerial style. He was constantly taking the company from the brink of bankruptcy or whatever, especially at the very beginning. Then as it became a leader in the market, it became peacetime again, right?
So he's able to oscillate between peacetime, wartime and wartime.
Yes. Although he says that to be a leader in both styles takes a lot of knowledge and skill set and experience. So he says that a peacetime CEO normally thinks long term and is a reasonable human being, where a wartime CEO obsesses about the imminent needs and often doesn't care about people or things, right? And so he says that this is because in wartime, a company typically has a single bullet in the chamber and must at all costs hit the target. So you don't have time to be crowdsourcing ideas and maybe what Tamarind was doing with it. It doesn't have that time. And companies in survival in wartime depends on the strict adherence to the mission. So you must pay attention to that vision. So he says that a peacetime CEO knows the proper protocol. However, a wartime CEO violates that protocol. So he no longer cares about the rules. He doesn't care about the rules. He also says that peacetime CEOs spend time defining the culture, and a wartime CEO lets the culture be defined by, you know, the circumstances.
So you'd rather be a peacetime CEO first and define the culture before getting into
wartime.
War.
But he says sometimes you're thrown into that situation. And he also says that wartime is crucial for organizations because that's when innovation happens. He says that Google was the dominant leader at the beginning. It was the only search engine. But however, with increasing competition, it had to start innovating. It had, in that wartime, it began to find other products that it could use. And so for innovation to happen, he says, wartime is crucial.
Good.
Yeah. So those were my few takeaways.
I had a mathematical takeaway.
Yeah.
Okay. So he says that he doesn't believe in statistics. He believes in calculus. And he's saying that in saying this, he's inspired by another tech exec in Silicon Valley called Peter Thiel, who's the founder of PayPal, who said, in mathematics, we use calculus versus statistics. Calculus is in a determinate world, so that's where calculus dominates. You can calculate specific things very precisely and deterministically. When you send a rocket to the moon, for instance, you need to know where it is at any one point in that launching path.
Precisely.
Which is very unlike an unpredictable startup where you launch a rocket and figure things out step by step. Are you going to land in Jupiter? Are you going to land in Mars? Or are you just going to be lost in space? In fact, he said there's a lot of companies that have launch parties, but they never have landing parties. Lost in space. So of course business is unpredictable, but the way Horowitz sees it is that you better go in with the calculus mindset, not the statistic mindset.
It's determined.
Absolutely.
It's determined. Go in as if it's determined. I mean, a lot of books say that, yes, when you get into business, you don't know how you're going to end up. You start up with this beautiful dream, but then you get into this ocean of turbulence.
Exactly.
But he says, be that as it may, go in with calculus, with specific calculations. Treat every endeavor as if you are not going to encounter randomness, as if you have a plan for it. Luck has no quarter in our world. We either get it right or we get it wrong, but either way, it's a problem with a solution, and we are going to find it.
Brilliant.
That reminds me of, you know, how a flight path. Before a pilot takes off, I think they map every single, you know, every single part of the path.
So that's
coordinates and all that.
So that's the mentality you should go in a business,
in
an enterprise.
Absolutely.
So on a day where we had a winning cartoon from the Daily Nation and a winning headline from the Star, a cheeky one though, I want to leave you with this. Some food for thought for entrepreneurs and future innovators. Hard things are hard because your emotions are at odds with your logic. They are hard because you don't know the answer and you cannot ask for help without showing weakness. However, we say, ask anyway. And remember, Karl Marx once said, life is struggle. So embrace the struggle. Embrace your weirdness, your instinct, and embrace subscribing to our channel. And you can find us on TV. We're on GoTV, Prime Feature Air, and Star Times. Have a good evening.